It's a Thursday evening in late May, and the parking lot at Roosevelt Elementary smells like warm asphalt and fresh-cut grass. The kind of evening when most people are home watching television or sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea. But tonight, the gym lights are on. Someone taped a paper banner over the entrance, a little crooked, with hand-painted blue letters, "Thank you, Melvin. 31 years. Inside, there are paper plates, white napkins, a supermarket cake with white frosting and green letters, punch in a plastic bowl, nothing fancy. It's the kind of party the school secretary puts together with $30 from petty cash and an email sent the Friday before. This is Melvin's retirement send-off. The janitor, the man who unlocked the doors of this school before sunrise for 31 straight years, who fixed boilers in the winter, changed light bulbs in the summer, and cleaned whatever needed cleaning without ever asking for recognition. And it's into this nearly empty parking lot that the Buick appears. An old model somewhere between beige and gray with a bumper slightly dented on the left side. Melvin parks slowly, kills the engine, and sits for a moment with his hands on the wheel. In the back seat, a small cardboard box holding what's left from his supply closet locker, a worn pair of work gloves, a flashlight with a cracked lens, and on his wrist, where it's been for 3 decades, a $12 digital watch with a strap held together by a strip of electrical tape. He walks into the gymnasium and does what he's always done. Stands near the wall, out of the way, holding a plate of cake he's barely touched. A few teachers stop to hug him. The principal raises a cup of punch for a quick toast. Melvin says thank you, nods, smiles the smile of a man who's never been comfortable being the center of attention. That's when Sheldon crosses the gym floor toward him. Sheldon is a school parent's 2nd grade, if I remember right. The kind of dad who shows up to meetings in a suit because he came straight from the office, always with his phone in hand, always looking like he has somewhere more important to be. He's got a watch on his wrist that costs more than Melvin's first car, and a Range Rover parked crooked right by the front door because he didn't think anyone else would need that spot. Sheldon approaches Melvin with the energy of someone who thinks he's doing a favor, shakes his hand a little too hard, gives him a pat on the shoulder. Melvin, big night, big night. Then the pause. The one Melvin's heard 100 times before, in 100 different voices. You doing all right? I mean after this. Financially, I mean. Sheldon lowers his voice like he's being generous. Because if you ever need anything, there's a fund. The PTA does a thing for staff sometimes. I could ask. Melvin just smiles, says thank you, doesn't correct him. He glances down at the watch on his wrist. Same one. 30 years. Here's what Sheldon doesn't know. What none of them in this gymnasium know, holding their paper plates, admiring their own reflections in the trophy case glass. Melvin never made more than $54,000 in a single year of his life. And he is retiring this month with $1,540,000. Not from a lottery ticket, not from an inheritance, not from a stock tip whispered at the right dinner party, from 8 decisions. 8 specific choices Melvin made. Most of them so small, so unremarkable, that if you saw him make one in real time, you'd think he was doing something wrong. You're about to see all 8. And by the end, you're going to understand exactly why the man everyone in that gym felt sorry for tonight is about to retire with more money than most of them will ever see, including the man in the Range Rover offering him charity. Item 1, the loan he never signed. Preston is Melvin's brother-in-law. Good guy, loud laugh, always got a project going. In 2003, Preston showed up at Melvin's door on a Tuesday evening with paperwork in hand and a pitch that sounded almost reasonable. He needed a co-signer on a truck loan. $28,000. Preston's credit wasn't great, a couple of late payments, a charge-off from a furniture store, but he swore he'd make every payment. I just need your name on it, Mel. That's all. You won't pay a dime. Melvin looked at the paperwork, looked at his sister standing behind Preston in the driveway, arms crossed, not making eye contact. He knew what that posture meant. He said no, not harshly, not with a speech. Just, I can't do that, Preston. I'm sorry. The fallout lasted 2 Thanksgivings. Preston told the family Melvin was tight, selfish. The man won't even sign a piece of paper for family. Here's what nobody at that table understood. According to a Lend.edu survey of Americans who co-signed loans for family members, nearly 66% ended up having to make payments themselves. More than 1 in 3 regretted the decision entirely. And the damage doesn't stop at the payment. A cosign default doesn't just hit the borrower's credit, it hits yours. The same report found that over 35% of cosigners saw their own credit score drop because of late payments they didn't make. Melvin didn't know those exact numbers, but he knew something simpler. If Preston couldn't qualify on his own, there was a reason, and putting his name on that line meant volunteering to be the reason's backup plan. That one signature he didn't write, the truck loan defaulted 14 months later. Preston stopped paying after a layoff. If Melvin had co-signed, he'd have been on the hook for over $20,000 in remaining balance, interest, and fees. $20,000 on a truck he never drove. The rule Melvin followed without ever putting it into words: never let someone else's financial emergency become your financial identity. And that's just the first decision. The second one looked even more boring from the outside, and it cost him even more respect. Item 2, the raise he never spent. Dominic started at the school 3 years after Melvin. Younger, faster, liked to talk about what he was going to buy next. When they both got bumped to the next pay grade in 2008, an extra $3,200 a year before taxes. Dominic came in on Monday with new boots, a new jacket, and a plan to trade up his car. Melvin came in wearing the same boots, the same watch, the same packed lunch, and the same brown bag. What Melvin did with the raise was so quiet that nobody noticed. He called the benefits office during his break and increased his 401k contribution by 2%. The entire raise absorbed before it ever touched his checking account. Dominic thought Melvin didn't get the bump. He actually asked him, "You didn't get the raise? That's messed up, man." Melvin just shrugged. Here's what the data says about what most people do with a raise. The Bureau of Economic Analysis reported that the U.S. personal savings rate sat at just 3.6% in early 2026, less than half the long-term average. And according to Federal Reserve data, nearly 40% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year still live paycheck to paycheck. Not because they don't earn enough, because every raise gets absorbed by the next upgrade. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's the reason most people feel exactly the same level of broke at every income level. The spending rises to match. Always. Melvin froze his lifestyle in 2001. Every raise after that, every overtime bump, every step increase went into the same place, quietly, automatically. No decision required, because the decision was already made. Over 22 years of small raises redirected, that habit alone added an estimated $93,000 to his retirement accounts, and that's before compounding. After compounding at a conservative 7% average annual return, that figure crosses $160,000. $160,000 from money he never saw, never missed, and never spent. The rule: a raise you absorb before it reaches your wallet is a raise that builds wealth. A raise you feel is a raise that builds lifestyle. But here's where it gets interesting, because the next decision is the one his coworkers still laugh about. Item 3, the tip he never took. It's 2015. Melvin is eating a ham sandwich in the break room when Trent, the assistant facilities manager, the kind of guy who reads Reddit threads on his phone during lunch, starts talking about a stock. "My cousin works at this biotech company. They're about to get FDA approval. It's going to triple." Trent put $2,000 in. Another coworker put in $500. They looked at Melvin like he was next. Melvin shook his head. "I don't do that." Trent laughed. "You don't do what? Make money?" Melvin went back to his sandwich. The $12 watch caught the fluorescent light as he raised the bread to his mouth. He didn't explain. He never explains. The stock dropped 41% in 3 months. Trent sold at a loss. The cousin stopped returning calls. But here's the thing. This isn't just a Trent story. This is a pattern. Dalbar, an independent research firm that's tracked investor behavior since 1985, found that in 2024, the average equity fund investor earned just 16.54%, while the S&P 500 returned over 25%. That's an 8.5 percentage point gap in a single year. Over 30 years ending in 2021, the average equity fund investor earned 7.13% per year. The S&P 500 returned 10.65% over the same period. Sounds like a small gap, right? Run the math. At 7% over 30 years, an $800 monthly contribution becomes about $800,000. At 10.65%, the same contribution becomes over $2 million. The difference between chasing and sitting still? Over $1 million. Melvin never chased. He picked one boring index fund inside his 401k the year he started and never switched. No tips, no cousins, no Reddit threads. The rule: the best investment decision most people will ever make is the one they only have to make once and then never touch again. Now, the fourth decision. This is the one that actually scared him. Item 4, the year he didn't stop. 2008, the market dropped 37%. Headlines everywhere, retirement accounts bleeding out in real time. Monica, Melvin's neighbor 2 doors down, knocked on his door one evening. She'd just frozen her 401k contributions at work. So had her husband. "We're not throwing good money after bad," she said, like she was quoting someone. "You should do the same." Melvin didn't. He kept contributing. Same percentage, same paycheck deduction. Every 2 weeks, money going into a market that felt like a burning building. His wife asked him once quietly, not confrontationally, "Are you sure?" He said, "I'm buying the same thing cheaper." That was it. According to Morningstar research, an investor who started contributing $500 a month and kept going through the 2008 crash would have had approximately $360,000 by March 2025. An investor who paused contributions until the market recovered would have ended up with about $307,000, $53,000 gone. Not from losing money from stopping. The Center for Retirement Research found that during the Great Recession, participation in retirement plans dropped nearly 2 percentage points as workers pulled back. Many of those workers never resumed their prior contribution levels. They paused for a year and lost a decade of compounding. Melvin's account dropped on paper just like everybody else's, but his contribution kept buying shares at lower prices. When the recovery came, and it always comes, those discounted shares multiplied faster than anything he'd bought before the crash. The rule: the worst time to stop investing is the exact moment it feels most rational to stop. You'd think this would be the hardest one. It wasn't. The next one was Item 5, the withdrawal he never made. 2012. Melvin's mother needed an assisted living placement. The family was scrambling. His brother Craig called a meeting at the kitchen table, that universal American stage for money conversations nobody wants to have. "We each pull $15,000 from our retirement," Craig said. "That covers the deposit in 6 months. We figure the rest out later." Melvin's stomach turned. Not because he didn't want to help, because he knew what pulling $15,000 out of a 401k before age 59 and a half actually costs. According to AARP and Fidelity, an early withdrawal from a 401k before that age can lose 25 to 35% of its value to taxes and the 10% penalty alone. A $20,000 withdrawal might net you only $12,000 to $14,000 after deductions, and that's before you count the compounding you'll never get back. Vanguard's How America Saves report found that 4.8% of plan participants took hardship withdrawals in 2024, up from 3.6% the year before. A rising number, and every single one of those withdrawals carries a hidden cost that gets bigger every year. It's not repaid. Melvin proposed a different plan. He'd cover 3 months of the deposit from his emergency savings, a fund he'd been quietly feeding for 15 years. Not retirement money, cash, accessible. No penalty. Craig called him stubborn. "You've got the money sitting right there in your retirement account. What are you saving it for? The afterlife." Melvin didn't argue. He just wrote the check from savings. That $15,000 he didn't pull from his 401k in 2012, at 7% compounding, it's worth over $34,000 today. Plus, he avoided nearly $5,000 in taxes and penalties, almost $40,000, preserved by a man his own brother called selfish. The rule: retirement money is the last money you touch, not the first. The emergency fund exists so the retirement fund doesn't have to. And yet, the next one is the one most people fail at every single month. Item 6, the balance he never carried. Yvonne lives across the street from Melvin. Nice house, new fence, landscaping done by a crew, not by hand. She's got a good job in medical billing. She also carries a rotating credit card balance that never quite goes away. Melvin has had the same credit card since 1994. He uses it for gas, groceries, and the occasional hardware store trip. He pays it in full every month, every single month. If a purchase would push the balance past what he can clear at the end of the cycle, he doesn't make the purchase. Yvonne thinks this is extreme. She told Melvin's wife once, half joking, Your husband acts like owing $50 on a Visa is a federal crime. Here's what that federal crime avoidance actually looks like in the national data. The Federal Reserve reported that 45% of credit card holders carried a balance for at least 1 month in 2025. Among those carrying a revolving balance, the average amount owed was $7,886. At today's average credit card interest rate of 21%, that balance generates roughly $1,650 a year in interest, $138 a month paid to a bank every month. For the privilege of owing, now run that over 20 years. 20 years of paying $138 a month in interest is over $33,000 burned, not invested, not compounding, just gone. Melvin never paid a cent of credit card interest in 31 years. If you take that same $138 a month and invest it at 7% over 20 years, it becomes roughly $72,000. $72,000. The difference between carrying a balance and refusing to the rule. Credit card debt is a subscription to staying broke. Canceling the subscription is free. Now, you might be thinking, fine, he's disciplined with debt. So are lots of people. But the next one is the reason most disciplined people still fall behind. Item Steven, the fund he never chased. Every year, there's a fund. Some sector, some strategy, some allocation that crushed it last year. Tech in the late 90s, energy in 2005, crypto adjacent in 2021. Whatever just went up the most becomes what everybody wants next. Renee, Melvin's co-worker in the main office, changed her 401k allocation every January based on what did best the year before. She called it following the winners. Melvin never changed his allocation, not once. The same index fund, the same split, 31 years. Renee thought he was lazy. You're not even managing your money, she told him once. She was right. He wasn't. And that's exactly why it worked. Dalbar's 2026 Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behavior report confirmed what 3 decades of their data have shown. The average equity fund investor has now underperformed the S&P 500 for 15 consecutive years. The last time the average investor beat the index was 2009, and the reason is almost always the same. People sell what dropped and buy what just went up. They chase last year's winner and ride next year's loser. Dalbar calls it behavioral drag, the cost of being human in a system designed for patience. Their 2024 report found that investors correctly timed their moves, the guess-right ratio, only 25% of the time. 3 out of 4 decisions made things worse. Melvin's index fund didn't beat the market in any single year. It matched it, and matching the market for 31 years, without interruption, without switching, without panicking, puts you ahead of almost every active investor alive. The rule, not managing your money, is a strategy. And for most people, it's the best one they'll never try. One more, the last decision. And honestly, this one might be the hardest of all. Item 8, the number he refused to stop at. 2019. Melvin's 401k crossed $500,000. His wife mentioned it over dinner. He nodded. That was it. Toby, Melvin's son-in-law, found out at a family barbecue and almost choked. $500,000? Mel, come on. You've made it. Ease up. Take a trip. You've earned it. Melvin didn't ease up, didn't cut his contribution, didn't celebrate. He went to work the next Monday and unlocked the school at 5:45 in the morning, the same way he had for 27 years, the $12 watch ticking against the door handle in the dark. There is a psychological phenomenon that financial researchers call arrival syndrome. It's the moment when a saver hits a round number, 100,000, 250,000, 500,000, and unconsciously shifts from building to coasting. The urgency fades, the discipline loosens. I've done enough replaces I'm not done yet. Vanguard's How America Saves 2025 report found that the average employee contribution rate is 7.7% of salary. Vanguard recommends 12 to 15%. That means the average worker is saving roughly half of what they should, and many of those who start strong quietly downshift after hitting a milestone that feels like enough. Melvin never downshifted. From the day he started contributing to the day he retired, he maintained the same aggressive percentage. When catch-up contributions became available after he turned 50, he added those too. When his salary inched up, the percentage stayed, meaning the dollar amount grew. Between 2019 and 2026, the 7 years after Toby told him to relax, Melvin's account grew from $500,000 to over $1,500,000. Compounding, consistent contributions, and an unbroken savings rate did what no hot tip, no market timing, and no financial advisor could have done. $1 million. Added in the last third of his career because he refused to stop when everyone told him he'd already won. The rule: the most dangerous number in personal finance is the one that makes you feel like you've arrived. Because arriving is when most people stop, and stopping is when the math stops working for you. Now step back, put all 8 decisions on a table, and look at them together. He didn't sign a loan that wasn't his. He didn't spend a raise he'd already redirected. He didn't chase a tip from a guy in a break room. He didn't stop contributing when the market crashed. He didn't raid his retirement when his family needed help. He didn't carry a credit card balance ever. He didn't switch funds to chase last year's winner. And he didn't ease up when the number got comfortable. 8 decisions. None of them exciting, none of them impressive in isolation, and every single one of them made the people around him think less of him. That's the part nobody warned you about. The psychology of retiring rich on an average salary isn't about intelligence. It's not about access. It's not about knowing something others don't. It's about tolerance. The tolerance to be misunderstood. To be called tight, stubborn, boring, clueless, selfish, and lazy sometimes by people you love, and to keep doing the exact same thing anyway. Every person who judged Melvin was doing the opposite of what he did. Preston co-signed and lost. Dominic spent every raise and stayed flat. Trent chased a tip and got burned. Monica froze contributions and lost $53,000 of growth. Craig raided retirement and paid the penalty. Yvonne carried a balance and paid the bank $72,000 in interest she'll never get back. Renee switched funds every year and underperformed for 15 straight. And Toby told Melvin to stop at the exact moment when stopping would have cost him $1 million. These aren't bad people. They're normal. That's the point. The psychology of people who retire rich on an average salary is not about being smarter than normal. It's about being willing to look dumber than normal for a very long time while the math quietly does what math does. What looks like deprivation from the outside is architecture from the inside. What looks like missed opportunity is avoided catastrophe. And what looks like a man in a Buick with a broken watch is actually the richest person in the room, and the only one nobody felt the need to ask for advice. Back in the gymnasium, the supermarket cake is half gone and the punch bowl is nearly empty. Sheldon is still working the room, shaking hands, adjusting his cuffs, the Range Rover key fob catching the light every time he reaches for a napkin. Melvin is already outside. The late May air hits his face as he crosses the parking lot beneath the crooked banner. He puts the cardboard box in the back seat of the Buick, rolls down the window, and checks the time on the same $12 watch. He didn't build his wealth by earning more. He built it by refusing to do 8 things that everyone around him did without thinking. He refused to sign, refused to spend, refused to chase, refused to stop, refused to withdraw, refused to carry, refused to switch, and refused to quit. $1,540,000. $54,000 a year, 31 years. 8 decisions. If you're watching this and something clicked, subscribe. I don't run ads. I don't sell courses. The deal is simple. You watch, I make more of these. And tell me in the comments which of those 8 decisions is the one you're still getting wrong. Be honest. That answer might be worth more than anything in this video.